Contrails might seem like harmless streaks in the sky, but they're far more than that. They form when hot exhaust gases from aircraft engines meet cold, moist air at high altitudes, creating ice crystals. This is why you usually see them behind planes flying above 30,000 feet. But here's the kicker. Not all contrails are the same. Under the right conditions, such as humidity and temperature, contrails spread and evolve into what's called contrail cirrus clouds. These man-made clouds can linger for hours and cover vast areas. Studies have shown that contrail cirrus clouds trap heat, contributing to what scientists call radiative forcing, a key driver of global warming. It's like wrapping our planet in an additional, invisible blanket. To put it in perspective, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, has found that the warming effects of contrails could rival the CO2 emissions from aviation itself. In simpler terms, the trails you see in the sky may be just as harmful as the emissions you don't. Here's where things get complicated. Contrail cirrus clouds are almost indistinguishable from natural cirrus clouds, those thin, wispy formations high in the atmosphere. This similarity makes it incredibly challenging for scientists to study and quantify their true impact. But there's one key difference. Natural clouds are part of Earth's balanced weather system, while contrails are entirely man-made and disrupt that balance. Think of it like this. Imagine adding extra water to a perfectly brewed cup of coffee. It dilutes the flavor, just like contrails dilute our atmosphere's natural state. And the impact isn't just theoretical. NASA's studies have found that regions with heavy air traffic have up to 5% more cirrus cloud cover than areas with little to no aviation. This additional cloud cover traps more heat, further amplifying global warming. Let's bring it down to Earth, literally. Contrails don't just mess with the atmosphere, they have real-world effects on the ground. By blocking sunlight, they reduce the amount of solar energy reaching the surface. This is a problem for everyone, but especially for renewable energy advocates. Solar panels, for instance, depend on direct sunlight to generate power efficiently. Studies have shown that areas under frequent contrail cover see a measurable drop in solar energy production. And, as we push toward greener solutions, such as solar power, contrails act like a paradoxical roadblock, an unintended consequence of our reliance on aviation. Think about this. The aviation industry indirectly hampers one of the best solutions to climate change while contributing to the problem itself. It's like taking one step forward and 2 steps back. We know the skies are busier than ever. Every day, over 100,000 flights crisscross the globe, carrying passengers, cargo, and yes, even our online shopping orders. But here's what you might not realize. Aviation contributes approximately 2.5% of global CO2 emissions. But the warming effects of contrails could nearly double that impact. This isn't just about the planes we see today. The aviation industry is projected to grow significantly in the coming decades. With the rise of budget airlines, the boom in e-commerce, and even the emergence of space tourism, air traffic could increase by as much as 50% by 2040. And more planes mean more contrails, more cirrus cloud cover, and more heat trapped in our atmosphere. Let's talk dollars and cents, because contrails don't just cost the environment, they cost us too. More heat trapped in the atmosphere means more frequent and severe weather events. We've already seen the financial toll of hurricanes, wildfires, and floods in recent years. Just last year, Hurricane Ian caused over $100 billion in damages, and experts link the intensity of such storms to warming trends. But it's not just about the weather. Contrails contribute to poor air quality, particularly in high-traffic flight corridors. Fine particulate matter from jet emissions mixes with the pollutants already in our atmosphere, creating a toxic cocktail that affects respiratory health. Imagine living under a busy flight path, breathing in a mix of pollutants every day. Studies have shown that people in such areas have a higher risk of asthma, cardiovascular diseases, and other chronic health issues. And yet, these impacts are rarely included in the cost calculations for air travel. Airlines profit, but communities pay the price, with their health and their wallets. Here's where things get even more complicated. The impacts of contrails, and aviation in general, aren't evenly distributed. The global north, with its wealthier nations, generates the majority of air traffic. Countries like the US, Canada, and much of Europe dominate the skies. But who feels the brunt of the consequences? Often, it's poorer nations in the global south. Rising temperatures exacerbate droughts in regions like sub-Saharan Africa, leading to food insecurity and displacement. Coastal communities in Southeast Asia face rising sea levels, fueled by global warming. These countries contribute the least to the problem, but face the most devastating consequences. And what's worse? Many of these nations lack the resources to adapt or recover. While we debate carbon offsets and airline sustainability pledges, millions of people are already living with the fallout. It's not just an environmental issue, it's a moral one. How do we justify convenience and profit at the expense of those least equipped to handle the consequences? Now, you might be wondering, are we doomed to this cycle of warming skies, polluted air, and escalating inequality? Not necessarily, but solutions are complicated. Let's start with the aviation industry itself. The promising idea is the development of sustainable aviation fuels, SAFs. Unlike traditional jet fuels, SAFs can reduce life cycle emissions by up to 80%. Airlines like Delta and American have pledged billions toward SAF research, but here's the catch. SAFs currently account for less than 1% of total fuel use in aviation. They're expensive to produce and require significant infrastructure upgrades to scale. Another approach is redesigning flight paths. Studies show that contrails form primarily in specific atmospheric conditions, cold and humid layers of air. By adjusting flight altitudes slightly, pilots can avoid these conditions, reducing contrail formation by as much as 50%. It sounds simple, right? But implementing such changes would require massive coordination between airlines, air traffic controllers, and international regulators. And let's be honest, the aviation industry isn't exactly known for moving quickly on environmental reforms. But let's not leave it all to the airlines and regulators. Governments have a huge role to play. Policies like carbon taxes on aviation fuel or stricter emissions standards could push airlines to adopt cleaner practices. In Europe, some countries are already taxing short-haul flights to encourage train travel, a move that could reduce emissions significantly. And what about us, the passengers? While we can't single-handedly stop contrails, we can make smarter choices. Opt for direct flights when possible, as they produce fewer emissions than connecting flights. Consider alternatives like trains for shorter trips. Amtrak, for instance, has been ramping up its high-speed rail options in the U.S. Finally, don't underestimate the power of your voice. Public demand drives change. Airlines are paying attention to sustainability concerns because customers, people like you, are asking for it. When booking flights, look for airlines that prioritize environmental responsibility. It's not just about avoiding guilt, it's about showing the industry that sustainability sells. So what can we do? First, awareness is key. Next time you look up and see those streaks in the sky, remember the hidden story they tell. Advocate for greener technologies, support transparent policies, and educate yourself about the industries shaping our future. The power to change the world starts with the choices we make every day. Together, we can demand better for our skies, our planet, and generations to come.